This podcast is made possible by you, the supporters of WPLN and WNXP, Nashville Public Radio.
This is the Nashvillager Podcast. It's July 22nd, 2025. And today, instead of telling you a little about one thing that happened on this date in history, I'd rather share a little bit of a timeline. I'm Nina Cardona, and this is your daily digest of what's happening around Middle Tennessee with historical context from Nashville Public Radio, WPLN News. In 1971, the first national public radio news show, All Things Considered, went on the air. The network was new, organized to serve a somewhat motley crew of independent community stations around the nation, including us, WPLN. NPR got money directly from the relatively new Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and the stations were pretty much all operated by universities or government agencies. We were part of the Nashville Public Library. The local public TV station, known then as WDCN, was run by Metro Schools, and those agencies paid the bills. 10 years later, that changed. Part of NPR's growing pains included struggles with how to manage money in a young and quickly growing organization. The Reagan administration took that opportunity to say, hey guys, maybe we should really cut back on the money we give the CPB. Congress pushed back and said, no, public broadcasters serve a unique and important role, but let's restructure how it works. So starting in the early 80s, that CPB money went to local stations, which could evaluate how much involvement they wanted to have in NPR and invest in the network accordingly, as we still do. And those local stations were also given approval from the Federal Communications Commission to raise money from the community. Thus, the fund drive, or as we called it back then, pledge drive, was born. It's also when we started getting corporate support and airing messages acknowledging the businesses that give us money, which still happens today. Another decade after all of that went into effect, the Contract for America happened. That was the name given in the mid-90s to efforts by then House Speaker Newt Gingrich to instate a laundry list of conservative measures, including spending cuts. And as part of all of that, Gingrich called for eliminating all CPB funding. Just get rid of it altogether. That was an interesting public debate. Republicans siding with Gingrich went on to interview shows and talked about how much they liked the cultural programming public broadcasting offered, but didn't like the news. And ultimately, they were pressured to back off by a heavy outcry from the public that positioned the whole thing as a battle to save Big Bird. Before long, Congress was appropriating more money than ever to the CPB. So that was the 90s. Similar debates started bubbling up yet again about a decade after that, finally reaching a high point in 2011. And honestly, I'd never noticed the pattern before, but this did seem to happen every 10 to 15 years or so. Anyway, that time, the main driver of the conversation was a huge federal budget deficit. Critics of public broadcasters said there was so much new media online that public radio and TV wasn't so necessary or valuable anymore, so why allocate money? Now, it should be pointed out now, with the benefit of hindsight, that all too many of those digital outlets that were supposed to be taking our place back then have either turned out to be a flash in the pan or have since been at the vanguard of firing actual reporters and letting AI creative writing bots do the job instead. Sometimes they publish facts. Sometimes. There is definitely a future in online-only journalism, and some solid examples of it now. And you know what? A nice chunk of that good online reporting is coming from public broadcasters who understand that the digital space is just as important as their radio or TV signal. I mean, that's why WPLN News pays me to produce this podcast every day, right? But now, here we are again. This time, Congress voted in favor of not just cutting back CPB funding, but clawing back money that had already been allocated. Money that stations like ours all over the nation had expected when crafting budgets for the fiscal year that just started this month. At Nashville Public Radio, the most straightforward effect of the rescission package is that $400,000 we expected now is just gone. We're also working with other stations to figure out the extent of other ripple effects on things like the way we secure rights to play music on WNXP or how the bills are paid to run the satellite system that distributes all kinds of national programming, not just NPR shows, to member stations, and for that matter, that stations use to send shows to each other. That's a lot to sort out in the coming weeks and months. For as many times as we've had potential funding crises in the public broadcasting world, this is the biggest one by far to actually come to fruition. But you know what? That first kerfuffle back in the 80s opened the door to the most amazing thing, and that is the direct financial relationship between our station and you, our audience. A passive relationship became an active one. And through all the difficult times, the ones I just outlined, and other general economic troubles that have come between them, time and time again, we've seen that the strongest rock that WPLN can rely upon is our audience. We take that very seriously. It creates an obligation to do our absolute best for you. But honestly, that's about as healthy and wholesome as an obligation can be, and I'll take it any day. And so in this really challenging moment for public broadcasting, we're coming directly to you with the big fact that we do know for sure, and that is that we have, as I mentioned, a $400,000 shortfall at Nashville Public Radio because the CPB money we were promised has now been clawed back. We believe you deserve the journalism that money was supposed to pay for. We believe you should still get that coverage of our local community and our state government, now more than ever. You can help fill the gap by pitching in what you can at WPLN.org. And your sustaining monthly donation will make a huge difference in rounding out the revenue column each month as we figure out what the future of public broadcasting balance sheets looks like. We're a team. You and me and all of WPLN News and the folks at WNXP and everybody else in our community who gives financially to what we do at Nashville Public Radio. Our team has weathered storms before. This is a really big one. But when we pull together, we can do amazing things. And I, for one, feel confident we'll come out the other end of this with a newfound strength and better understanding than ever of how to make this model of journalism shine for all of us. In just a few minutes, what is the Trump administration trying to do with the public utility that makes Tennessee's electric power? That's coming up after the newscast.
Nashville Public Radio is always here to keep you informed, whether it's the latest news or music you should check out. Every week, What Where Wednesdays shares the latest happenings taking place right here in Nashville by talking to members of our community, putting on events in your neighborhood and beyond. So tune in to What Were Wednesdays every Wednesday, and you can always find events at WNXP.org/events.
Here's the latest from WPLN News. A woman who was found to be falsely labeled as a sex offender will be removed from Tennessee's sex offender registry. But there's a stipulation. She and her attorneys are not allowed to talk about the case to the news media. First Amendment lawyers say limiting her from talking may be unconstitutional. The Tennessean reports the woman was never convicted of sexual misconduct, yet her name was still added to the registry. This meant she could not attend school events for her child's football games. Her involvement in a kidnapping ended up contributing to the mix-up. She's not being identified out of concern for her safety. Every month, Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell joins our daily show This Is Nashville to answer questions from his constituents. This month, the mayor was asked about how the city could support people experiencing homelessness after an encampment near Nissan Stadium was closed for a fireworks show on the 4th of July.
As someone that was homeless about 8 years ago for like a year, I had 2 jobs, I had to sleep in my car, and, recently the Supreme Court kind of opened the door for people to get arrested just for sleeping in their cars, and recently I heard about the July 4th celebration here in Nashville about homeless encampment being cleared out for that specifically, and my view of other cities, clearing pretty much sweeping homeless people under the rug.
The encampment was near the fallout zone of the fireworks, which officials say could have been dangerous. O'Connell acknowledged the difficulty of deciding whether to relocate individuals living in the area temporarily or permanently.
As in every encampment resolution scenario that I've observed, you do wind up serving a lot of people effectively, but then there are also some people who prefer to stay in that footprint. Maybe they found an area that is comfortable to them, feels safe to them. But as you've already observed, a complex set of state and federal laws means we aren't always easily able to even allow that.
Many individuals were moved to interim housing and affordable units, and the camp was closed permanently. This is not the first time O'Connell's administration has made moves to close homeless encampments. This spring, the city began relocating residents of Old Tent City, an encampment slated to become the site of a new $70 million park. The reopening of Nashville's downtown library is delayed. Workers want to make sure the facility is safe after a recent fire in the attached garage. It was scheduled to reopen at the end of this month. In the meantime, books and materials on hold will be available for pickup at the Luby Branch Library on Rosa Parks Boulevard. Wilson County Schools has decided how the state's new cell phone ban will work for their students. When school restarts, phones will be allowed between classes and at lunch, but unless a child has a specific need or a teacher plans an activity using phones, they are strictly banned during class time. A fellowship for Black artists and writers in Appalachia will boost them in telling their stories of the region. The grant funding comes from a trio of nonprofits and is open to artists in Tennessee and 5 other states. Louisville Public Media's Giselle Roden has more.
The Black Appalachian Storytellers Fellowship will grant 6 artists $5,000 each to fund their projects. The fellows can choose any medium to tell a story. Andrew Baskin was the 2023 fellow for Kentucky.
Black storytellers make sure that the stories of African Americans or blacks who live in the region, that their stories are visible, because we've always been here. And even though people may ignore us, we have those stories, we have those lived experiences.
The awardees will travel to the National Association for Black Storytellers Conference in Atlanta this November. Applications are open online until August 11th. I'm Giselle Roden in Louisville.
The judges will select one awardee from each state and feature the recipient at the National Association of Black Storytellers Festival. That's in Atlanta in November. The Tennessee Titans have lost quarterback Will Levis for the season because of a shoulder injury. The announcement comes as the team begins training camp today. The change also strengthens the possibility that the nation's number 1 draft pick, Cam Ward, will win the starting quarterback role in his rookie season. The Titans also have 2 lesser-known veteran quarterbacks on the roster, Brandon Allen and Tim Boyle. So far, the team has been rotating quarterbacks during practice. Observers expect that Ward, the rookie, will lead the team. A baby eagle who recently learned to fly at Radnor Lake State Park is now under doctor's care. More than a week ago, all eyes were on the young female bird to take her maiden flight. Her birth was called a miracle, as native eagles in the park are scarce. Last week, park rangers discovered the baby on the ground and hurt. News Channel 5 reports she's being looked after by veterinarians who specialize in this type of eagle. They say the next few days are critical to recovery.
You'll find more news anytime at WPLN.org.
The Tennessee Valley Authority has faced a lot of public backlash lately, largely because of its fossil fuel expansion. Opposition has ranged from environmentalists and U.S. senators to a country music star. And now, in this moment of scrutiny, President Donald Trump could radically change the nation's oldest and largest public utility. WPLN's Caroline Eggers reports.
Tracy O'Neill lives in Ashland City, a rural town just outside of Nashville. Her land is idyllic. In the summer, daisies bloom near a sylvan symphony.
I come out here and it's quiet and it's beautiful and it's like my sanctuary.
That's what she shared 2 years ago when TVA announced plans for a gas plant and 30-mile pipeline in the Cheatham County town, right across from O'Neill's home. Ever since, she and other residents have fiercely opposed the project, packing TVA meetings and organizing resistance. But the utility didn't budge until country music star John Rich stepped in. He started in May, posting an interview with resident George Wade on social media.
If you could walk in the Oval Office right now and say anything you wanted to President Trump, who has the ultimate authority on who sits on the board of the TVA and makes the decisions, what would you say, sir?
Mr. President, TVA has its foot on the throats of the Cheatham County residents. They are pillaging, terrorizing, and destroying this community.
This wish was granted. On Tuesday, TVA announced that it would be dropping the project. That does not mean the utility had a change of heart with fossil fuels. Quick reminder, TVA has planned 8 other gas plants since 2020, and a TVA spokesperson says they'll need to keep building gas. So why did TVA cancel this project? Well, let's back up one day before that. On Monday, a White House official unsuccessfully demanded that TVA's board fire the utility's brand new CEO, Don Mall.
This is intentionally destructive.
That's Stephen Smith, the longtime director of the Southern Alliance for Clean Energy. He says Trump is weakening the utility. And it started with the TVA board. That's the utility's main regulator. The board is supposed to have 9 members appointed by presidents. But Trump recently fired 3 of them without citing a cause. And now it's down to just 3 members. Not enough to make key decisions, like approving TVA's annual budget next month.
In my 30 years of tracking TVA, I have never seen TVA in such a destabilized position as it is right now.
An idea being floated is that Trump could bypass the Senate to fill the board soon. Maybe unlikely, but all of these actions are unprecedented. So anyhow, if Trump installs a board of supporters, and then they install a new CEO, then Trump could control TVA. Smith says one option is that the utility could be sold off.
It is absolutely possible that TVA could be privatized.
That could look like TVA being bought by other monopoly utilities, like Duke Energy in North Carolina or NextEra in Florida, or even someone invested in artificial intelligence.
Let's say somebody like Elon Musk wants to put together an offer and buy TVA.
This could play out in a lot of ways. It could be a blended model of public and private. Some versions could have benefits, while others could get chaotic. Lately, it's been Republican politicians like Governor Bill Lee and Senators Marsha Blackburn and Bill Hagerty who've been voicing their agendas for TVA in editorials. They want quick approval for Trump's board picks and for TVA to build nuclear reactors across the state. Concurrently, the Trump administration has removed hurdles for nuclear and fossil fuel energy. Smith says TVA's recent decisions have been correspondingly hyper-political and hyper-partisan, not reflective of concerns for the economy or the environment. If Trump does end up using TVA as a tool, then
I don't know where we'd end up. And I think ultimately it would end up destroying TVA, but I think they'll create just a huge mess over the next 3 or 4 years.
There could be more clarity on TVA's direction soon. In the meantime, residents in Ashland City are celebrating the end of a years-long fight to cancel a gas plant. Tracy O'Neill said she was told to sit down before getting the news.
It took a few seconds for that to register in my mind, and then I just erupted in tears.
But she's still wary of what's to come and understands this is about more than one plant.
I feel that this entire debacle exposed some real serious flaws in how TVA engages with the public. You know, it shouldn't take a celebrity tweet to get the attention of a federal agency on this.
Moving forward, O'Neill says TVA should work with communities, not in spite of them. Caroline Eggers, WPLN News.
Thanks for listening to the Nash Villager podcast. We take this look at Nashville news every weekday. If you like it, go ahead and subscribe on your favorite podcasting app and tell a friend or give us a mention on your socials. It really helps get the word out. And of course, everything at WPLN News is listener supported. You can become a member at WPLN.org. And that's it for today. Thanks so much for listening. Let's make this day a good one, and we'll catch back up tomorrow.